Hello everyone. I'm about to run through a couple of competitive leagues with Boltfolk. I don't think that Boltfolk is like the number one choice right now in terms of what you want to play in a Merfolk deck, like a variation, because linear kind of combo-y decks are so popular right now. I think like the consistency of the mono blue version is really nice, and running like a heavy creature count and maybe like just some spell pierces is probably better. Or like if you want to go max linear, like the blue-green version with just a whole bunch of creatures and a whole bunch of lords, like play this. I don't care what my opponent is doing. I'm just like going to attack. I think that's probably the best place you want to be right now, instead of trying to play an interactive game with like bolts. But there are decks where like don't take that as bolts aren't good right now. There are some matchups where bolts aren't good, but there's a reason why bolt is the most played card in modern. It's a wonderful card. It's going to give us a lot of reach. It's going to give us an efficient removal spell that we don't have to pay 4 life to use. And yeah, I'm going down to 2 Wizard's Lightning right now, and I like the full 4 is fine, but like I said, there are a lot of decks where the bolts kind of come out after sideboard, and Wizard's Lightning does pretty often. So I'm going down to 2, and that lets us up our creature count to 26. You know, when you're playing the full 4 Wizard's Lightning and you're playing 20 lands, you're going to get down to 24 creatures, which is pretty low for an Aether Vial deck. That's about as low as it can get. So being able to go up to 26 or so is just fine. I'm running Master of Waves this time. I keep going back and forth between whether or not I want a low to the ground version with Mana Regery, or have kind of a mid-rangey version with Master of Waves and Phantasmal Image. And right now I'm hedging towards the mid-rangey version again. But Master of Waves will win you games out of nowhere just by stabilizing a board that otherwise couldn't be stabilized, or just putting so much power on the board that the opponent has 1 turn to find a removal spell for the Master of Waves. And it's something that Mana Regery just doesn't do. So yeah, I don't know. Master of Waves is a great card, so I'm excited to like keep playing him. For the sideboard, it's pretty standard stuff, I guess. Some counter spells and Echoing Truth. I'm not huge on Venser because it's just a 4 mana spell, so it's kind of slow right now. Kira is going to be great in any 1-for-1 removal, like mid-rangey deck. Also decent against Dredge because it turns off their conflict rate, or at least they cannot use it to wipe your board, so they have to put it at your face, which is not a bad deal. Tidebinder Mage, again, I love Tidebinder Mage, and I think that there are plenty of opportunities to get value off of Tidebinder Mage, so they are staying in my sideboard. Gutshot, people might say, oh, you're already running red intrinsically, why there are better options than Gutshot. But it is, it can't be understated how good the ability to kill like a Mana Dork, or like a turn 2 Thalia. Well, Thalia will still cost mana, but any kind of like 1 mana creature, a Dark Confidant or something, they use 2 mana and you pay 0 mana to kill their creature. That's a huge tempo swing. And so even though I am running red, yeah, that'll give me the flexibility to pay 1 if I don't want to spend the life. But being able to Gutshot a creature for no mana is it can't be understated how good that kind of play can be, and how much it can put your opponent back in tempo. So what else? We've got a Braid here. It's just really flexible. It's another bolt for creatures or artifact destruction. We've got Relic of Progenitus, 3 of them. This could easily be 4 because of how prevalent graveyard decks are right now. I think if you're playing mono blue, there's a serious consideration that some people should have for putting a couple of Relic of Progenitus in the main board. If you're playing competitive leagues, if you're playing some kind of place with an unknown meta game, and it leans towards tiered decks right now, I feel like, or you're going through a metagame that you know about and it has a lot of graveyard decks, then you should consider putting Relic in the main deck. Like Merfolk has had successful decks where Relic is in the main board right now, and we don't use our graveyard at all. So there's a very low cost of putting a couple of relics in the in the main deck, and there are plenty of archetypes that are doing that right now that don't use the graveyard, like Tron and Titan Shift are main decking Relic of Progenitus, and I think that's totally reasonable for Merfolk as well. I'm not doing it here because we're playing the blue-red version, but if you're playing mono blue, that's something to seriously consider. And then we've got Tectonic Edge, pretty self-explanatory. I don't know if there's anything else I need to explain in here, but we're running 20 lands. We've got 12 red sources. So the red splash for Merfolk is not as free as, say, the blue-green version, because the blue-green version, your main deck changes are going to be based on creatures, and so you can vial them in if you need to, if you don't have the mana, right? But when you're running bolts and you're running Wizard's Lightning, like you're not going to be able to vial in a lightning bolt. So you're going to actually have to have a red source to cast Lightning Bolt. Whereas if you had like a Kumena Speaker, you could still vial it in even if you didn't have your green source. So we have 12 red sources, and we're running 3 Mutavaults instead of the full 4. I feel really comfortable running the full 4 in like a blue-green version, but I don't feel comfortable running the full 4 in the blue-red version with bolts, because like I said, it's this splash is not as free as the green splash would be. So you're going to have to make sure you have those red sources. So anyway, we'll see how this goes. This isn't like a perfect metagame choice right now, but it has game, and I mean you can bastardize some Merfolk quite a bit and still keep a lot of the power level. So we'll just have some fun and see how this goes. So see you in the games.